if you want to get a good whipping, from who? Who does Dorian want to be whipped by? Ah, good question. How does it happen? How does Dorian deliver a message? How? I can't see how, because right now he looks like a destroyer. I don't know. I can't see how Florida does not get smashed by this hurricane. But anyway, I've been talking about Gabriel all along, and on a psychic level, like logically, I'm thinking, well, it's Dorian, not Gabriel. Look at this. But on a psychic level, no, it's not changing. So I don't know what to think of that. 1:41 in Iceland. Friday the 30th of August. I think they just had something on our weather channel about the hurricane. So I might finish up now. I think I got to the end of what I was reading. Yeah. Category 5 caning. Not what you'd really choose, is it? No matter how you were. No matter how inclined. No matter which way inclined you were. You wouldn't choose that. I wouldn't think. Not unless you were crazy. Maybe Dorian is crazy. Maybe he is. A crazy bad boy. Crazy DJ. Well, I think that's self-evident. Why would you do drugs in Singapore? Such a big risk. Thrill seeker? Don't know. There's no thrill being in jail for 20 years. It's as boring as you can get. Exactly what he'd hate, so no. Why he did it's a mystery. Crazy? Yeah. Crazy. Crazy risk. A risk I don't think he really thought much about. Best late August snow depth in 19 years. Wow. I think they have something on the hurricane here. Here we go, world weather. Yeah, they do.
Homes and businesses in the US are preparing for Hurricane Dorian as it heads towards the country's southeast. The hurricane grazed Puerto Rico in the Caribbean late Wednesday evening. The system could reach Category 4 by the time it hits Florida's east coast over the weekend, with gales expected from late Saturday evening.
Hurricane Dorian, gathering strength as it moves out of the Caribbean and towards the southeast United States. The storm causing some power outages and flooding in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, but no major damage. Now it's picking up speed as it moves over open waters, and will likely turn into a powerful hurricane as it nears the coast of Florida on Sunday. The governor declaring a state of emergency for counties in the storm's path. Residents are being told the time to prepare is now.
Really the key is to have your plan and make those preparations right now. And you have to assume that if you're affected by the storm, that you will lose power. So make accommodations to be able to weather that.
Many Florida residents are heeding the warnings, stocking up on food, water, and emergency supplies. There are long lines at gas stations, with some stations already running out of fuel.
Just getting ready for the hurricane.
Just getting prepared before the storm comes. Just want to protect against what's coming.
Dorian is expected to hit the U.S. mainland late Sunday or early Monday. It's not yet clear where the storm will land, so folks in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas should keep an eye on the forecast.
Well, like I was saying, if the spirits want to communicate, they'll communicate somehow.
In some pockets, more than 100 millimetres in the gauge. In the west, we've had some heavy rain with the first of 4 fronts rolling through. We've got your full weather forecast to let you know when it won't be raining in the west in the coming few days. Whilst in the south this morning, it was very different. Sunny and clear. And it was pretty chilly as well, with Melbourne seeing its coldest morning of winter.
Icy Iceland. Let's flick around. Gardening Australia.
Wollongong collected 75 millimetres in the 24 hours to 9 a.m. Its heaviest rain in 2.5 years. Pretty substantial falls there. But it's not alone. We've also got some pretty heavy falls on both the east coast and the west coast. And today there's still more to come. Let's have a look in Queensland first of all, where we've still got a few showers around for today through the...
For the me, no matter what. And I often look at them as American stories, and I'll often say to you on social media, this is who we are too. This is us at our best. Now, what are you looking at? This is 4-year-old Brayson, laying in the aisle of a United flight from San Diego to Houston. Brayson has autism. His mom says he usually loves flying. This time, you know, all the kinds of things you may have seen with your own kids doing, but even more exaggerated form here because of what Brayson deals with. Would not put his seatbelt on. The crew bent the rules, allowed Brayson to sit on mom's lap during takeoff while dad held him, and then they let him lay on the cabin floor. Other passengers, what did they do? They were gracious when Brayson would crick their seats. Now look at this. All right? So they did the right thing by this kid. They didn't have to. The rules said it shouldn't happen, but humanity came first. Again, Kansas. 8-year-old Connor. He's the one on the left. Also lives with autism. He's in tears on his first day of school. Christian, another 8-year-old kid on the right, takes his hand, nobody prompted him, and walked him into the school. This is who we are at our best. Am I right, D. Lemon?
Absolutely, Chris. And you and I have been talking about these stories. We both saw them. I posted on social media, and I said, we need more of this because there's so much negativity, there's so much toxicity in the world, on social media and all over. We need good stories like this story. And people, you know, children. You have young kids. You have young children. Mm-hmm. Children have to be taught to hate. Children are very loving people. They love everything. They love everybody. They love the dogs. They love everything they love. What they don't like, they don't like. Sometimes they're nervous about flying. Sometimes they're a bit nervous about going to school. But I posted it because that story, the one with the kid who was apprehensive about going into school, I mean, that happened to me when I was a kid. I remember when I was in, I think it was first grade. It was first grade. And I didn't want to go to school for whatever reason. And my mom was dropping me off the same time my friend Tina, the same one who talked to me about the Popeye sandwiches, her mom was dropping her off. And I was crying and sobbing. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to school. And my mom said we had backpacks on that were bigger than us. And Tina put her arm over my shoulder, and I remember it. And she said, come on, Don, it's going to be okay. Let's go into school. And we went into school, and we have been the best of friends ever since. We've known each other since nursery school. It's my oldest friend.
People can be great,
but you don't forget things like that.
We do. We forget it, but we don't. We forget it and we don't. It's what we decide to focus on. And you know, there's something special and referential about kids. Not just reverential, but referential. In that, out of the mouths of babes, we often say comes wisdom, because they don't have the layers on them that clouds our own intelligence. I can't tell you how my kids in parenting has become more of a situation about what they teach me. Just today, I got sideways with my oldest one, and it was a mistake. And it's what she teaches me about how to be my best. It's about what she reminds me of how she acts with a sense of tender mercy, even when she's been wronged. Mm-hmm. That's what we see in these stories. We need to remember that's who we are, too. The bad stuff is true. So's the good stuff.
But you don't want to be sideways with her. Because that's your retirement. She's got a voice on her.
She is so
and
talented.
Can play the guitar. She's so talented.
She can do it all. She is a gift. She is a gift that I certainly didn't deserve, and I'll do my best to cherish it.
All three of them are. Listen, you said out of the mouths of babes. We have two young men, very young, 9 and 10, I think, or 9 and 12. How old are they, producers? 9 and 10. And they're brothers, and they showed up at a Joe Biden rally, and they stumped him, and it's going viral. So we're going to talk about them. We also have Sam Donaldson on to talk about the news that's happening, and
Sam Donaldson. I worked with him as a tandem crew. We had a segment called Stump Sam, and nobody ever stumped him.
No. Also, we're going to get new forecasting on the hurricane. Yes. But I got to tell you the thing that we're going to go off the beaten path here, because we often discuss this. There is a massive study when people ask, "Are you born this way if you're gay? Is it genetic? What is it? Is there a gay gene?" We're going to get to the bottom of it. There's a new study out, and we'll tell you.
Can't wait. Talk to you in a second.
See ya.
All right, last night, interview blew up all over the place online. Kayleigh McEnany, the mouthpiece for the campaign, refused to acknowledge what is painfully obvious about this president. There can be no rational debate about whether or not he has lied to you. But really, it's not about his lies. It's about how they're treated by the people around him and what that means to you. That's my argument. Next.
You can't be gay, honestly gay, in Singapore. I said that, hey. You are not allowed to be honest and gay in Singapore. If you're caught doing anything homosexual in Singapore, you can be sentenced to a Category 5 caning. And I already told you what Category 5 means, didn't I? Category 5 means it's travelling at about 160 kilometers an hour when it makes impact on your bare flesh, your bare skin. Bare skin or bare flesh? Well, that depends. Because each stroke of the cane, when it's swung as hard as it's humanly possible to swing a cane, and we're talking caners who are trained, selected for their ability to swing a cane really, really hard as it's possible to swing a cane. Well, when it hits you, your bare skin, well, after it hits your bare skin, you don't have any skin anymore. Because the skin disintegrates on contact across a line, so you get a white line appear across your butt where the cane landed. It's a rattan cane. It's not bamboo, it's rattan. It's been soaked in water. It's a water-soaked cane. So it's heavy, it's flexible, it's like a whip. And it hits you so hard, you just get a white line appear across your butt cheeks. And then the blood comes. So it's not like getting the cane at school. For anyone that remembers that, that's no small deal. Getting the cane at school when you're a kid. And like they were saying, kids are special. Referential. Not just reverential, referential. Out of the mouths of babes comes wisdom. It's true. Kids used to be on the receiving end of the cane, of the paddle, of the belt, of the jump cord. They weren't asked, hey, do you mind? To discipline you, I'm going to use this on you. There was no consent involved. And that's no light. No consent, no light. If you're a kinky bad boy masochist and you're like, actually I want a spanking, well, that's a different thing. It's an interesting thing because it requires a lot of communication to get it right. It's hard to get it right when you're talking about something that involves physical impact. It's like a form of violence, but it's like gentle. See, Jake said don't get the wrong idea about gentle, because gentle means consent. Essentially, that's what it's about. Ice hockey is a rough game, but I chose to play it. It's the same thing. I wasn't forced to play it. I chose to play it. It's when you're forced to do stuff against your free will, or you're forced to stay in a place you don't want to be, against your free will. There's no consent, and there's no light. No light in your bright blue eyes. I never knew daylight could be so violent. Dorian is a messenger. Dorian is the DJ. Dorian is the drug addict. Dorian is the boy. Boy by Roald Dahl. It touches on the theme of corporal punishment. What they do in Singapore is not corporal punishment. The skin disintegrates, it's gone across that line. So if you're sentenced to 24 strokes, well, after about 15 strokes, no matter how accurate the caner is, in trying to avoid hitting the same place twice, you're not going to have any skin left on your butt. So the next 9 strokes are going to be landing on flesh, not skin. And that is torture. And I defy anyone to tell me otherwise.
There can be no rational debate about whether this president has lied to you. More than we have ever tracked since tracking began. That is the case. The argument to make is how those around him enable and therefore own the same behavior. Exhibit A is, of course, his campaign press secretary from last night. You don't think this president has lied to the American people?
No,
you
I
have
don't
to answer
think the
that question
president has
first.
lied.
He has
I don't
never
think the
lied to
president
the
has
American
lied.
people.
No, I don't
Failing
think the
McEnany,
president
your
has lied.
credibility will be
I
shot
think
with my
CNN
audience if
has
you don't
lied
back
to the
off that
American
statement. And I was right. Now, we know what's happening here. She's saying that President Trump isn't lying when he says he's already built the wall, when he says Muslim people cheered in the streets of New Jersey after 9/11, when he says his dad was born in Germany, when he says a dozen other things, all fugazi. What's their playbook? Give no ground, deny any lie. And that move is now shared by too many who work for you and those who say they uphold conservative values, like this man. Why they lie?
I can't look inside.
I'm asking you to condemn them for lying because they shouldn't lie to the American people.
I'm not going to condemn them for lying. I don't have any idea why he didn't go to that meeting. I have no idea.
Yeah, but you know that they lied about the reason that he didn't go.
Why do I get to be the person that determines whether someone who else speaks is lying or not?
He asked the right question. Because each and all of us are, especially if you're in the punditry game of constantly judging your opponents on that basis. But you all have to make that call. All right? Because it's not just okay to call out lying when it's one of your opponents. And if they don't outright deny a lie, they will pretend the lie was something less. Look at this. I don't think they're lies, said this press secretary. I think the president communicates in a way that some people, especially the media, aren't necessarily comfortable with. A lot of times they take him so literally. I know people will roll their eyes if I say he was just kidding or was speaking in hypotheticals, but sometimes he is. Maybe sometimes he is. Sometimes he's lying. And your job is not to make that okay, because your job is technically to the American people, and that's your responsibility. So you can say, oh, it's a joke. He says migrants are mostly murderers and bad hombres, ha ha ha, and then puts kids in cages. It's a joke when he talks about shutting the border, ha ha, and then puts all these rules in that effectively do just that. It's a joke when he says he believes Putin over his own intelligence agencies on the world stage. You get the point. And once it's okay to deny a lie or say it's something else, it was only a matter of time before the cover-up would get more profound. It's not that he's lying. It's that there's no such thing as truth. And this from the president's attorney. If fact counting is anything, we've never had anybody with the level of mendacity that he has. Not even close. But we'll leave it there.
It's in the eye of the beholder.
No, facts are not in the eye of the
Yes,
beholder. You're always welcome here to
nowadays
argue
they
the
are.
case. They are. No, nowadays some want them to be. But no, because when you can't explain what people can see and hear, what happens next? Now you start to attack the people who expose the truth to them.
Don't believe the crap you see from these people, the fake news. What you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening.
Don't believe your lying eyes. Straight out of a dystopian fever dream. Literally ripped from the prophetic pages of Orwell's 1984. You remember this line? The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. Politicians used to talk about the two Americas, right? Haves and have-nots. My father did it until his last day. There are two Americas in this era as well. The true believers and everybody else. And those are some intractable groups. It's why President Trump's approval ratings never get above 50 and never go below about 35%. But this kind of time spent on division is withering. To you who deserve better, certainly. Even those who have to defend it. Look at Scaramucci. How many others will there be? Not sure. How many will do what he did, or what General Mattis just seemed to do, subtly, in his new book? Or how many will do the opposite, hold on, even double down as the divisiveness kind of creates a near delirium? Just be clear what this is about. It's not about petty gotchas. It's not about pitting one side against the other. It's not about playing to advantage. And don't ever cheapen it by saying it's about personal animus towards this president. This is about something much more basic. Holding power to account for what it says and does to and for the American people, period. And whether it's one or two terms, this presidency will be long remembered, and each and all of us will have to answer for what we did and said during this time. One simple question that will mean everything. How will you be remembered? Thank you for watching CNN Tonight with D. Lemon. There he is.
I often say history will be the judge, and history will be a harsh one. Just let me read this. So, this is a definition of a lie, Merriam-Webster, okay? An assertion of something known or believed by the speaker or writer to be untrue with intent to deceive. Okay, so that with the intent. But here's the B. An untrue or inaccurate statement that may or may not be believed true by the speaker or writer. Doesn't matter. They're still saying the wrong thing. It is a lie or a misrepresentation of the truth.
Yeah, there are lots of words for it, right?
Yeah,
you have prevarication, you have
but a lie is a
dissembling.
lie all day long.
That's exactly right.
These folks who say the president doesn't lie, or you may be misunderstanding how he's communicating. I mean, that's rich, but
It's a very simple
that
test
in
for
itself
it.
is a lie as well.
Is it an excuse that they would offer to their political opponent? If they would say the same thing about their political opponent, then they're fine saying it about this president. But it never is. Because they do whataboutism on everything. Oh, well, what about when President Obama said you can keep your doctor? Being wrong isn't the same as lying. 2 + 2 is 4.5. Wrong. That's not a lie, not if I didn't know that. So it's not just about being wrong. When the president says something that's wrong, okay, he was wrong. He's talking about his intelligence, his competence, his preparation. This is different. We both know it. He says things that he knows are untrue, that he knows are divisive, and he says them anyway, and he does it to deceive.
Yeah, but there's a big difference too, because in your interview last night, and they love calling out the media, right? We're the scapegoat, we're the easiest target. But guess what? When the media gets it wrong, what do?
Apologize.
We got it wrong. I'm sorry, we got it wrong. Here's the right information, which that's what anyone should do, especially when you're in a position of authority as we are. If you get it wrong, you say, I got it wrong, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time, and you keep it moving. You don't say, okay, just keep doing it and have other people make excuses for it.
You do.
As this president does.
You do if the currency changes. If the currency becomes that any giving in is weakness, and that this is all about strength and the perception of power and might, then you do what this president does. You deny, and if you accuse me, I say the same is true of you or worse. And I tell people, if you're with me, you'll believe me and not him. If you're going to make the currency that anything about apologizing, anything about being wrong is weakness, then you're going to act the way he does. And he does it all day long.
Listen, I don't want to go back over last night, but it was a topic of discussion today among people about whether or not people are deceiving you, whether or not you should even give them the space to do it. You feel one way, yours is legitimate. I feel another way. I don't think it serves the viewer. I would rather, have someone on who's going to be.
How do you conduct the journalism of vetting this campaign if you do not have people on who represent it?
You can have people on who represent it, but
no one is ever acceptable to people who want to use that argument, because it's very rare to see someone on the left to say that someone who supports Trump is not a liar about everything that they say. It's very rare that any of his defenders are found acceptable.
Because we have Trump supporters on all the time, and we hold them accountable to the truth, and they don't make excuses for everything this president does. But there are folks like the one who's on last night, excuse about everything.
He's working for the campaign, and he does not suffer anything short of that, Don. You will not be around him very long if you are in the business of exposing his flaws.
So you're proving the point then. Then what's the point?
The point is, it's the job of us to test and expose and let people see it for what it is. One, so that they can believe their eyes and ears. And two, if they're against it, they know how to oppose it.
I'm not going to go over this again. That is in a normal world, when it was liberal versus conservative, Republican versus Democrats. This is about truth versus lies. And I don't think people need the space to promote propaganda and lies. I think that's a disservice. It's not a service. It's not testing. It's allowing someone who, giving them a platform that they haven't deserved, that they don't deserve.
No one deserves. When somebody is a main advisor to the president, or when somebody is the main spokesperson for a campaign, that decision has been made.
Coming on a major network like CNN, it is a privilege. It is not a right. It has nothing to do with freedom of speech or freedom of expression. It is a privilege to come on to be able to talk directly to the American people. And if you had that privilege, then you should respect the American people and the host of that show and the platform and the company, the brand, enough to come on and tell the truth. And if your candidate doesn't tell the truth, you can say, listen, I can't answer for that. I don't know why, but this is where what I think he said or who should say. But you just can't
Nobody
say,
does that.
he doesn't lie, he doesn't lie,
This
he doesn't
has
lie,
been
he doesn't lie.
exaggerated, but you've never had a spokesperson for a campaign come on here and say if their candidate did something wrong or lied about something and they shouldn't have done it.
Well, we've had
They don't do
Trump
it. This guy
supporters.
didn't start it. He's enhancing it and he's using it a new way. But this is why they need both our shows,
He's
Don.
perfecting it.
You won't have him on, I will. That's why they need us both. It's a full employment plan.
I agree. You know, listen, this is what we discuss. I respect you. I respect what you do. You do it very well. We do it differently, but again, you can respect what I do. I can respect what you do. Doesn't mean that you agree with it. That doesn't mean that you would do it the way that I do.
I mostly agree.
Isn't that? And that's
I love
what
you do.
That's what this whole thing is about, right? Don't you?
That's
think?
exactly right.
Yeah. Okay.
You done with me?
I'm getting yelled at.
Can I go back in my hole now?
Now you get to go home and get yelled at, and then you got to go apologize and make amends with your daughter and all that. Yes, dear, and on and on and on. I don't envy you for that, but I have the same thing going on.
Yeah, I was going to say. You know what it's like to have to apologize. I'll talk to you later.
I'll see you later. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. Oh, we got to talk about Hurricane Dorian. It is taking aim at Florida, expected to slam the state on Labor Day, a big holiday weekend. And FEMA says this one is going to be big. Dorian, currently on track to hit Florida. Check this out. Category 4, which could make it the strongest hurricane to strike the state's east coast since Andrew. That was back in 1992. The governor of Florida declaring states of emergency across every single county. And here's the thing. This storm has been really unpredictable so far. We just don't know yet where or exactly when Dorian could hit. So the next few days, absolutely crucial. Listen, if you're in Florida right now, you got to keep a careful eye on the forecast, and you got to do it all weekend. I know it's a holiday weekend, but you have to be vigilant. You got to keep an eye on the forecast. You got to be ready to move and to make certain provisions for things. We're going to have all the latest throughout the next 2 hours here on CNN and beyond, in a sign of, just how serious all of this could be. The president today canceling his planned trip to Poland that was supposed to take place this weekend.
Sure that all resources of the federal government are focused on the arriving storm. I have decided to send our Vice President Mike Pence to Poland this weekend in my place. It's something very important for me to be here.
After the president tweeted earlier, and this is quote, this tweet, "Be prepared and please follow state and federal instructions. It will be a very big hurricane, perhaps one of the biggest." And listen to what he said this morning on Fox News Radio.
Also in Florida, and we have a great governor there. He's incredible, doing an incredible job. Very popular, too.
The president heaping praise on the governor there in Florida, who is a Republican and not at all, coincidentally, a big Trump supporter. Quite a contrast with what we have to say, what he had to say about Puerto Rico, remember? And the San Juan mayor, Carmen Yulín Cruz, a Democrat who is definitely not a Trump supporter. Remember, just yesterday, with Dorian taking aim at Puerto Rico, the president seemed to blame more than 3 million American citizens there for not being, being in the path of the storm, and slammed the mayor as, quote, incompetent. He sure has changed his tune, hasn't he? He sure has nice things to say about Florida. Could that have to do with the fact that there are 9 Trump org-owned properties in South Florida, including Mar-a-Lago and the Trump National Doral Golf Club? Interesting. Or could it be Florida's 29 electoral votes and Puerto Rico's none? Could it all have to do with, I don't know, the president's re-election chances? And by the way, that Poland trip the president canceled so he could be, here stateside during the storm. He was supposed to meet with the president of Ukraine while he was in Warsaw. No word yet on whether the vice president will have that meeting. A meeting that takes on new meaning with the news that the president is seriously considering a plan to block $250 million in military assistance to Ukraine. $250 million. You know who's going to love that? Vladimir Putin. The man this president has been campaigning to return to the G7, which would make it the G8. The man who was kicked out in the first place for seizing Crimea from Ukraine. All that coming as this president seems to be more and more rattled by warning signs of the economy with 2020 looming and with new tariffs set to take effect on Sunday on those goods from China, including clothing and sneakers, right at back to school time. The president telling Fox News Radio this about his trade war with China.
They want to make a deal. I sort of think they have to make a deal.
Slamming Pennsylvania Pennsylvania Senator, I should say, Pat Toomey, who says there's no question the president's trade war is weighing on the economy.
What does Toomey want me to do? Does he want me to say, let me put my hands up, China, continue to rip us off?
Had this to say about the American farmers who are being hit hard by his trade war. Remember when he said the trade wars are good and easy to win? Well, there are a whole lot of farmers who don't see it that way.
They actually target because they know that the farmers like Trump, and Trump loves the farmers, actually. They don't want any subsidies. They don't want handouts. But they also know something has to be done with China, and they're with me all the way.
Wait. I talked to one farmer earlier this week who says he's lost $400,000 in the president's trade war with China. Listen to what he says. Danger of losing any of that support in 2020?
Well, if he doesn't lose 100% of it from the Farm Belt, then people are kind of crazy because this is not going well for farmers at all.
With all of that, the trade war, looming hurricane, seems the president just couldn't resist talking about one of his favorite subjects. That's right, the size of the crowds at his rallies. And this may tell you something about which candidates are making him nervous. He really wants to make sure that you know his crowds are bigger than Elizabeth Warren's.
There are many times what her crowds are. Nobody ever talks about them. Nobody wants to talk about them.
He talks about them? Well, at least one person talks about them. One person never misses a chance to talk about his crowds. He talked about them in the middle of a visit to the hospital where victims of the El Paso shooting were being treated.
3 months ago, we made a speech, and we had a what was the name of the arena? That place was packed, right?
I was front row.
Right? The judges have respected
I was front row.
What was the name?
I was front row.
Oh, good. Come here, man. That was some crowd.
Thank you.
And we had twice the number outside. And then you had this crazy Beto. Beto had like 400 people in a parking lot. They said his crowd was wonderful.
Wow. He talks about him all the time.
This crowd in New Hampshire, it's all over the place. Everybody's saying, wow. Our competitor has virtually no crowd. I don't know what that means. We have, let's say, 35,000 people tonight, and he has 200 people, 300 people, not too good. In that last 2 weeks, I had crowds like this everywhere. We had thousands of people outside. They couldn't get in. Take a look at the pictures for the inauguration. We had some monster crowd. This is beyond anybody's expectations. There's been no crowd like this. The ballroom was packed. They say it was the largest crowd they've ever had for a political event.
Crowds have been an obsession for this president from day one.
Largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
Like I said, this president is rattled. He's rattled by warning signs of the economy. He's rattled by the Democrats vying for the chance to run against him. And now, a massive, unpredictable hurricane taking aim at Florida. Everything you need to know about the hurricane, Hurricane Dorian. We're going to go live to the storm zone next.
Live to the storm zone. Well, if I press record, we can come back In the meantime, we can go on a little bit of exploring. If the spirits want to speak, they will speak. Sky.
What is it you really want? Well, now you can enjoy the Foxtel and Netflix shows you love all in one place on IQ4.
Ain't no fun if it can't kill you.
Stream or watch Mayans MC Season 2, Wednesday 8:30 on Fox Showcase.
And in today's weather headlines, we've got heavy rain for New South Wales, particularly for the coastal areas around Sydney and the Hunter today, with some areas already seeing the heaviest rain in multiple years, and some pockets more than 100 millimetres in the gauge. In the west, we've had some heavy...
6 meeting where they were trying to get information, trying to trap the President of the United States as they're supposed to be giving him a defensive briefing. Yeah, that is so...
Yeah. By saying in the meeting, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Congressman, you're on a roll, but I just want to say it because I'll forget. By telling him...
Do you think that this supports the need for the Queensland Government to strengthen rules surrounding land clearing and sediment runoff?
Well, those are matters for Queensland, but what I saw when I visited the reef and spoke to farmers who are effectively at the front line of the catchment when it comes to sediment running in and...
It's not being referred to specialists, and residents also being given expired medication because supplies weren't effectively managed. Now, in terms of those assaults, it was found that the facility wasn't able to effectively manage residents with behavioural issues, and in one case, a family wasn't alerted that their loved one...
Monaco. That's a look at your CNN World Sport headlines.
So did the spirits speak? Not really. That was a bit of a jumble of mismatch.
Stateless, persecuted Rohingya Muslims who fled Myanmar now face a new threat. Women and children falling prey to traffickers. CNN travels to the world's largest refugee camp to understand the crisis.
Nobody was really able to do anything to help.
What does it take to lead a search for a missing child?
In 24 hours. Yeah, we're going to come back here. Yeah. The police, if she's not providing us with the address of the man who took the boy.
Stolen Son, a CNN Freedom Project documentary, Saturday. Many of the statues ISIS toppled were fixed.
$500 for 2 children.
Trafficking. There's so much bad stuff in the world, hey, and yet there's so much good at the same time. The shadow of God. That's what I keep talking about. What is the shadow of God? Gabriel and Gabrielle.
Here's our breaking news tonight. Hurricane Dorian now threatening to smash into Florida as a major Category 4 hurricane. State of emergency has been declared for all 67 counties there. This could be the strongest hurricane to hit Florida's east coast since Andrew back in 1992. Georgia's governor also declaring a state of emergency. This is what Dorian looks like from space. And if you think that looks intimidating, remember the storm is, right now, only a Category 1. Our meteorologist, Derek Van Dam, tracking the hurricane, the CNN Weather Center for us. Derek, good evening to you. Give us the latest on how strong the storm could get and where it's expected to hit.
Yeah, Don, if 130-mile-per-hour winds isn't enough to prompt you to listen to potential evacuations, well, then maybe the potential of a stalled-out hurricane over the state of Florida for several days and then dropping copious amounts of rain is enough to make you act. That's the variables at play here. Plenty of things on the table at the moment. We're looking at all possibilities. What we know right now from the National Hurricane Center, 85 miles per hour. As you so aptly put, this is a Category 1, but the storm is strengthening quickly. We currently have 2 Hurricane Hunter planes. This is actually a new figure that just came out. 106-mile-per-hour wind found within the center of the circulation. It is likely by the 11 o'clock update this evening, we'll see this bumped up to a Category 2. This is the projected path. Look at how large the cone is at the end of the 4- and 5-day period. This indicates to the meteorologists that they're expecting a stalling pattern to take place. On Monday at 2 p.m., here's this location right around the East Coast.
only 24 hours later, it moves inland by, let's say, 75 miles. You can imagine what that means. A prolonged wind event and a prolonged wind event. This is not a great scenario heading into Labor Day weekend, Don.
Derek Van Dam, our meteorologist, stand by. Millions of people across Florida are stocking up on emergency supplies as Dorian approaches. CNN's Leila Santiago is in Port Canaveral for us along the Space Coast. Hello, Leila. How are people preparing where you are? Tell us what's going on there.
You know, I've been a little surprised by the mood, but it makes sense. A lot of folks still saying it's still very early, but they are very much monitoring this, keeping a close eye. As you mentioned, the supplies. We went to a few stores. They are starting to limit the amount of water that people can buy. We saw Waste Management making the rounds, picking up any tree branches. And tomorrow, the city of Cocoa Beach says that they're going to have 2 truckloads of sand ready for folks to make bags. So they are preparing. And part of the preparation is also for businesses who, as Derek mentioned, you know, this was supposed to be a long weekend, Labor Day weekend, and so that's going to be quite the blow for them. I want you to listen to part of the conversation I had with a hotel manager here.
The whole weekend's ruined.
In terms of money, how much will you lose here?
This hotel, in excess of $120,000.
For this hurricane?
Yes, for this hurricane. 2 days in August. And then in September, because the 1st of September, Sunday, Monday, another 50, 60.
Yeah.
It's costly to the whole area. It's bad timing.
Yeah.
And this could be a scary one, too.
What's your biggest concern?
A direct hit.
And we checked in with Port Canaveral, where we are right now, and they said they had 2 ships today. They expect 3 tomorrow. After that, they could see some adjustments to the itineraries for cruise ships. So, again, very much a concern for those businesses, but they're not alone. No, Kennedy Space Center also prepping for Hurricane Dorian. They actually had, and this is incredible video, they had to move the mobile launch platform today, and that's something that took a 600 million pound vehicle to kind of roll right along for 3.5 miles to get that platform into safety inside in preparation for Hurricane Dorian. Don.
Well, Santiago, stand by. She's at the ready as well. Joining me now is the Vice Mayor of Palm Beach County, Dave Kerner. Vice Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. You are closely involved with the emergency management plans for Palm Beach County. Can you tell us how officials are preparing for Hurricane Dorian?
Good evening, Don. Thank you for having me on the show tonight. And yes, we are, it's not our first rodeo here in Palm Beach County. We have a incredible staff that has been preparing for scenarios like this every day of every year. And we're getting into full swing right now, and we're preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, sir.
You know, it looks like, this one looks like it's going to be a major flooding event. What will that do to Palm Beach County?
Well, as you can imagine, a large majority of our population lives within the close coastal areas of the Atlantic Sea, and we're contending with the king tide right now as well. So it's sort of a confluence of events that are very concerning, and people tend to focus on the wind speeds as the major source of danger in a hurricane. And I can tell you, having been born and raised in Palm Beach County, having spent my 10th birthday in Hurricane Andrew on August 24th of 1992, it's less about the winds, it's more about the flooding, and people need to be very cognizant of that danger.
Mm-hmm. Listen, you mentioned a little bit of it, but can you tell us specifically, what are you telling residents to do to prepare? You know, like how many days of water, refill prescriptions, and on and on and on?
There's varying metrics for that, and obviously depends on the impact of the storm in the county. We want you to be overcautious. We want you to be well prepared in the event that the storm hits here in Palm Beach County directly. We would like you to have 5 to 7 days of food and water. If you live in the coastal areas and there's evacuation orders, which we'll start to make some of those decisions later on tomorrow, you got to be prepared to leave. You don't have to go hundreds of miles away. Remember, we don't know where the storm is going to hit and where it's going to continue on. But you need to be prepared to hunker down in your home if possible, as long as you're not within the coastal areas.
Vice Mayor Dave Kerner, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Best of luck. I'm sure we'll be talking to you over the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Don, and we look forward to it.
Yeah. We've got a lot more on Hurricane Dorian to tell you about. I'm going to ask the Coast Guard captain how they're preparing for what could be a massive storm. That's next.
Shall we go exploring again? I like to do this. Sometimes it gets weird. Volume might help.
And a declaration against BlueScope and also seeking costs. It's also seeking to have Jason Ellis disqualified from managing companies, and it's also flagged the prospect of a criminal prosecution. It says the matter's been referred to the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions.
For today, 3 metres tomorrow with fairly calm conditions. It's also fairly calm through South Australia. Beautiful sunny skies, lovely for heading down to the water. And we've got the winds picking up a little bit more of
the statements that make it clear that he realized he was going to extort the President of the United States. So I hope they prosecute him on the last one.
Oh, at the FISA.
This guy should go to jail.
Well,
this is the guy, people should realize, this is the guy who put Martha Stewart in jail. On a flimsy...
And his lawyer went after Conrad Black on a ridiculous...
in order to get publicity. The Martha Stewart case was a joke. I don't know Martha Stewart particularly. She's attacked President Trump.
Yeah.
I said at the time, this is a publicity stunt by him.
Popovers, though.
Yeah, that's what he did.
All right, whose conduct was more egregious and damaging to the rule of law, the integrity of the rule of law, equal justice under the law? Mike Flynn in a setup interview with Sally Yates and her agents.
Singapore law.
To 50 kilometres above the ground, where the stratosphere is, above the troposphere, over Antarctica. Now, sudden stratospheric warming occurs when those temperatures increase in that layer by 25 degrees or more in a very short period of time, and this can impact the polar vortex. Now, the polar vortex is this ring of clockwise winds, vigorous westerlies over the Antarctic continent, which do a pretty good job, as you can see looking at the temperatures here, of keeping that cold air trapped over Antarctica, occasionally releasing some further north. Now, when the polar vortex weakens as a result of sudden stratospheric warming, this can occur for up to a month afterwards. And as polar westerlies decrease due to that weakening of the vortex, mid-latitude westerlies increase. So more rigorous westerly winds over the Australian continent and to New Zealand. So you can see from these wind patterns here, the red indicates stronger westerly winds over Antarctica, and they do occasionally push up over Tasmania. In a weakened polar vortex event, westerlies over Australia will increase quite dramatically and decrease over Antarctica. Normally Antarctica would warm and areas over Australia would cool down, but with the springtime warming we are expecting, you can expect those strong westerly winds that may occur to increase dry and warm weather over mainland Australia.
This is Olivia Dunlop of Ngambie, Victoria, age 7 and 8 months.
And this is CNN.
We're covering the breaking news tonight. Florida facing what could be a direct hit from Hurricane Dorian, predicted to be a Category 4 by the time it strikes. Sources telling CNN that the Navy and Air Force are moving ships and planes out of harm's way. So joining me on the phone, from Jacksonville, is Captain Mark Vaughn of the Coast Guard. He oversees the Port of Jacksonville and Port Canaveral. Captain, we appreciate you joining us. There's a large port in Jacksonville. What preparations are being made right now?
Thanks for having me, Don. We're actually doing a lot, and it really begins with talking to our federal, state, and local partners and doing everything we can to secure our maritime facilities and the ships that either remain in port or, in some cases, as you mentioned with cruise ships in Canaveral, we're actually diverting some to other locations to try to keep things as secure and stable as possible as the storm goes through. And then secondarily, we're really moving a lot of our assets out of harm's way, but not too far out, because we know that those assets will be needed potentially for life-saving search and rescue once the wind starts to subside. And that includes bringing a number of flood punts in from other areas. As your last guest, the Vice Mayor, mentioned, storm surge and flooding is a big risk for us right now, and we're trying to pre-stage as many assets as we can to be able to respond to that. Getting these ports open is critical. As you mentioned, Jacksonville is a very large port, as is Canaveral. A lot of our jet fuel that comes into Orlando comes through Canaveral. A lot of containerized cargo used really throughout the entire southeast United States comes in through Jacksonville. And it's also important that these are important hubs for our domestic trade with Puerto Rico, USVI. So getting these ports back open, getting them back open fast is obviously important to both the southeast United States and our domestic partners.
Listen, you know, one of your main jobs is to inform the public of the dangers from this hurricane. There are always people who are going to go outside, go to the beach when they shouldn't. What are you telling those people, Captain?
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, Don. Actually, our number one concern right now is that Labor Day is often looked at as a boating weekend, and we're trying to make a statement very loud and clear that Labor Day 2019 is not a boating weekend in Florida. This is an incredibly unpredictable, powerful, and dangerous storm. Saturday and Sunday, even if it's sunny, it's just not safe to be out there on the water. The storm could come in very quickly. It can be unpredictable. It can cause a lot of uncertain seas. And our plea really to everybody is secure your boat this weekend, but don't go out in it.
Captain Mark Vaughn, we appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Joining me now from Gainesville, the former FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate. Mr. Fugate, always a pleasure to have you on. Unfortunately, we have to talk under such circumstances most of the time. Hurricane Dorian has proven very difficult to track. There's a huge cone of where it could make landfall. All 67 counties out in Florida under a state of emergency. So can you take us behind the scenes right now? What is FEMA doing now across that state?
Well, they're already staffing the state emergency response team up in Tallahassee with Governor DeSantis and the state team. And they're looking at counties and the state as far as what kind of resources will be needed, pre-positioning supplies, getting urban search and rescue teams that have water rescue capabilities ready to go. And again, the whole federal response mechanisms from our partners with the Coast Guard, Northern Command for any DOD missions, they're all in these conference calls listening to what the counties and the state are saying as they get ready for the storm.
Yeah. So listen, there are lots of resources. Talk to us about that. What kinds of resources go into preparing for a hurricane like this?
Well, the first thing is supporting any evacuation. That's primarily going to be state and local government, but again, FEMA can provide some assistance with durable medical goods and other supplies. The Governor DeSantis is already calling out the Florida National Guard, getting them ready. But the big thing is anticipating disruptions to infrastructure, power and water outages. So, making sure that generators, commodities like meals, shelf-stable meals, water, in addition to what the state of Florida and counties already have or have contracted for, based upon all of the variations in the track. This is very early.